What a difference 4 years can make in the realm of game design. Even though Metroid II was released on a system that lacked a lot of what the original NES could do, it is amazing how much of a leap forward Metroid II was compared to the original Metroid. Though it still falls short on what we'll see later in the series, a lot of the core design and ideas were established here, and some of them were born out of necessity. The two biggest innovations that Metroid II brought to the system were the save system that let you save where you were and come back later without the need to die and write down a password first. Granted, this was primarily due to the game being released on a handheld system, and thus only guaranteeing about a half hour's playtime before needing to take a break to change or recharge the batteries, but it's still a very welcome addition to this series. On the other end of the scale, the introduction of the iconic shoulder pads for the Varia suit had more to do with the fact that the game was released on a monochrome system than anything else. However, it's hard to say that there has been any other change in the game that has been as iconic to the look of Samus as this one was. As for the rest of the game, we see the introduction of all the other beams that Samus would continue to use through the rest of the series. However, without the ability to combine the beams yet, it becomes more painful thinking what might have been if you could combine the beams like you could in the later games. However, the beams were all very well balanced against each other, giving you a much better sense of progression throughout the game, with each beam you find becoming more powerful than the last, up to the very end when you need to switch back to the ice beam for the very end of the game. Finally, the addition of the ability to duck and fire as well as to fire down while jumping were massive improvements to the game. This allowed the designers to create levels they simply could not have done with the system from the original Metroid. And this goes a long way toward making the game feel a lot more inviting than the first in the series did. But that doesn't mean that it's a perfect sequel. Much like Zero Mission and Fusion down the road, Nintendo went with a much more linear game with significantly less open exploration than the original was known for. Unlike the later games, however, you still had a fair amount of exploration you could do, with each of the sub-areas giving you a nice mini-world to explore, which also happens to coincide nicely with the expected playtime for the system. A lot of the enemies also have fairly awkward placements, either a touch too high or too low to effectively hit and requiring an awkward jump to take out. While this isn't extremely common in the game, it is common enough to be an issue. Finally, while the addition of the space jump is great, there are a few things that just make it awkward to use. The timing to keep up is far too strict, meaning you're likely to fail at it very quickly. But what's worse is that you're often expected to use it quite a lot to move around, and at the end of the game are required to traverse an absolutely massive room to get to the final segment. Even if it worked properly, it would still be a touch on the tough side. But with the tight window you have on keeping it going, just that one room becomes much more frustrating than anything else in the game. So, how does it all balance out? Well, I would say that it comes in right where you might expect. It's significantly better than the original Metroid game, giving you a much better balanced experience and expanding on a lot of what Metroid gave you to begin with, but not as good as you'll see in Super Metroid. From what I've seen, it's an unfortunately underrated game, but one that still stands the test of time quite well. But that didn't keep fans from giving it the Zero Mission treatment, and that's where we're going next. So join me next time as we dive into AM2R, the fan remake that Nintendo did not want released. And until then, Magius out.